Hello everybody, my name's Ollie. Welcome to another edition of The Watch Collector. Today we're going to have a look at a brand, Kudoke. Now, I've reviewed one of their watches previously, but this is the first time that I've seen the K3, which is what we're going to be having a look at today. Before we do that, obligatory wristwatch check, and I'm wearing my HYT 80 unique piece. Before I get to this, hopefully some of you may have realised that there was a bit of a hiatus. We weren't recording quite as many of these as we had done previously. Entirely my fault, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, some of you may know that I'm into motorbikes, and at the tail end of 2023, unfortunately, I was involved in a motorbike accident. It meant that I had to take some time out. So I'm really sorry that I didn't get to see you. You may have thought to yourself, well, actually, I've had enough of that guy anyway, and he's rubbish at what he does. But if that's not the case, I'm super glad to be back, and really pleased to be looking and reviewing watches once again. So as mentioned, this is the Kudoke K3. Now, it's a brand that actually, I think, has done incredibly well to forge its own distinct character in what is a really saturated price point within the market. The K3 is distinctive because of the way that it displays the time. But before we get to that, let's talk about the case. It's 39 millimeters, 10.3 millimeters in height, and bears all the hallmarks really of what I think has made Kudoke recognizable within the market. You've got the multiple steps on the bezel, which is not easy to do. To create something that is very distinct but is still rounded and has the touch extremely smooth way to feel, has to be applauded. I love the way that you have the onion style crown. You have the engraving of the K on the side, but just that little touch, the way that ultimately that's the way that you're going to interact with the watch. The tactility that onion style crown gives really takes this piece up a level. In addition, before we get onto the dial itself, I absolutely love the color of the strap. It's a very, very deep, powerful blue that has almost a metallic feature to it, and really almost an iridescence in light. It's a really, really lovely strap, and the bolstering I think is just right. It's soft and has some give, but you can tell it's going to really support the watch. Now, getting onto that dial and actually how it's depicting the time. So you have the rodinized bottom half of the dial with a actually very pretty wave effect that cuts it just over halfway. Blued minute and hours, and I use hours plural hands because this is how the watch works. So in the center you have the minute hands, and that works in the way that obviously you would expect. However, in terms of the hours, how that works is very slightly different. You can probably see the three plates in the top third of the watch. And what you actually have is not one, not two, but three separate hour hands. And it's those that provide an indication of, or it gives you an accurate indication of what the time is. So if I pull out the crown and wind it through, you can see you have a hand right at the bottom that takes you through hours, initially. Then what's so nice is that it just disappears. And you have the second hand that takes you through the next four. And then another one pops out, and there it comes. It's it's ingenious. I love the simplicity of it. And I love the fact that actually, even though it could be perceived as quite a dead dial, it gives it a nice level of intrigue as if one is just disappearing and one is reappearing. Almost like a sunrise, sunset perception of how time is to be understood, I think. And I think it's very clever, very different, and gives an interest that I think is lacking in other pieces. What I think is also important to understand about this is the little details of what has made Kudoke successful are present here. You have the infinity symbol at 12 o'clock instead of a 12 or maybe just a marker. You then have at 2, 4, 2, 4, 8 and 10 blackened screws. They didn't have to do that, but it adds an extra layer of texture. It adds certainly another reflective, something to enjoy, I should say, other than simply just having spots or dots as are present on the rest of the track outside of the dial. Kudoke is also, of course, known for its engraving and its movement, and this is no different. This one hasn't had the handcrafted hand engraving, at least in full, which of course is available from Kudoke, but nevertheless, the finishing on these pieces is excellent, especially for the price point. If I'm not mistaken, being manual wind, it has a 46-hour power reserve, and even though it doesn't have as much skeletonization as you might see on other pieces, especially when you get this piece hand engraved, I think it's extremely special and extremely elegant. Let's throw it on the wrist and see how it wears. Before we do that, let's also take a minute to note that more and more manufacturers now are putting in quick release clasps for the straps. For those of us who want to be able to change whenever we want, that's a real nice addition. It's obviously a brand new watch, brand new strap, so I'm not going to force it too much. Now, at 39 millimeters, make a decision for yourself. Even though it does have lugs that extend, it's a slight watch. It has a presence. It's absolutely a dress size as opposed to a sport size. But I think actually, because you have those slightly extended lugs, it wears very well. Now, those of you, and you'll be expecting me to say this, I think, it'd be really nice to see this with a deploying clasp as opposed to a pin buckle. Some of you may well disagree with me on that. But I think for a watch like this, particularly bearing in mind the amount of detail that's gone into the case, the bezel, the dial, the materials, it'd be quite nice to have a deploying clasp. But nevertheless, I think it's extremely elegant, instantly Kudoke, because of all those aforementioned traits, and would look absolutely superb with a perhaps smart casual or even full smart attire. So that's the Kudoke K3. Overall, I think it's a great addition to the Kudoke line. I'm a big fan of the brand. What I love about this is because of the way that they're interpreting time, it really gives you a reason to buy another Kudoke. Not many other brands are able to do that, and particularly when you're talking about a price point that the Kudoke comes in at. So overall, I'm a fan. I would love to know what you think about it. That's the Kudoke K3 with Kaliber 1. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you next time.